I'm a writer, and I will write what I want to write. People ask me if there are going to be stories of Harry Potter as an adult. Frankly, if I wanted to, I could keep writing stories until Harry is a senior citizen, but I don't know how many people would actually want to read about a 65-year-old Harry still at Hogwarts playing bingo with Ron and Hermione. Happiness can be found, even in the darkest of times, if one only remembers to turn on the light. I've been writing since I was 6. It is a compulsion, so I can't really say where the desire came from. I've always had it. My breakthrough with the first book came through persistence, because a lot of publishers turned it down. We are only as strong as we are united, as weak as we are divided. If you want to know what a man's like, take a good look at how he treats his inferiors, not his equals. Imagination is the foundation of all invention and innovation. It is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case, you fail by default. I have never been remotely ashamed of having been depressed. Never. What's to be ashamed of? I went through a really rough time, and I am quite proud that I got out of that. I don't believe in the kind of magic in my books. But I do believe something very magical can happen when you read a good book. We have to choose between what is right and what is easy. It matters not what someone is born, but what they grow to be. I don't think there's any harm at all in allowing a kid to fantasize. In fact, I think to stop people from fantasizing is a very destructive thing indeed. The world is full of wonderful things you haven't seen yet. Don't ever give up on the chance of seeing them. You will never truly know yourself, or the strength of your relationships, until both have been tested by adversity. It takes a great deal of bravery to stand up to our enemies, but just as much to stand up to our friends. Books are like mirrors. If a fool looks in, you cannot expect a genius to look out. Your mother died to save you. If there is one thing Voldemort cannot understand, it is love. Love as powerful as your mother's for you leaves its own mark. To have been loved so deeply, even though the person who loved us is gone, will give us some protection forever. There is no good and evil, there are only power and those too weak to seek it. If it's a good book, anyone will read it. I'm totally unashamed about still reading things I loved in my childhood. The knowledge that you have emerged wiser and stronger from setbacks means that you are, ever after, secure in your ability to survive. Do not pity the dead, Harry. Pity the living, and above all those who live without love. It is our choices that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities. Don't talk to me. Why not? Because I want to fix that in my memory forever. Draco Malfoy, the amazing bouncing ferret. The truth. Dumbledore sighed. It is a beautiful and terrible thing, and should therefore be treated with great caution. You've got to work. It's about structure. It's about discipline. It's all these deadly things that your school teacher told you you needed. You need it. Youth cannot know how age thinks and feels. But old men are guilty if they forget what it was to be young. Indifference and neglect often do much more damage than outright dislike. Of course it is happening inside your head, Harry, but why on earth should that mean that it is not real? Let us step into the night and pursue that flighty temptress, adventure. Is fat really the worst thing a human being can be? Is fat worse than vindictive, jealous, shallow, vain, boring, or cruel? Not to me. Secretly, we're all a little more absurd than we make ourselves out to be. Poverty entails fear and stress, and sometimes depression. It meets 1,000 petty humiliations and hardships. Climbing out of poverty by your own efforts, that is something on which to pride yourself. But poverty itself is romanticized by fools. He was my mum and dad's best friend. He's a convicted murderer, but he's broken out of wizard prison and he's on the run. He likes to keep in touch with me, though, keep up with my news, check if I'm happy. Failure is so important. We speak about success all the time. It is the ability to resist failure or use failure that often leads to greater success. I've met people who don't want to try for fear of failing. To the well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure. Life is difficult and complicated and beyond anyone's total control, and the humility to know that will enable you to survive its vicissitudes. Words are, in my not-so-humble opinion, our most inexhaustible source of magic, capable of both inflicting injury and remedying it. Numbing the pain for a while will make it worse when you finally feel it. Dumbledore watched her fly away, and as her silvery glow faded he turned back to Snape, and his eyes were full of tears. After all this time? Always, said Snape.